Hey everyone, so this video is going to cover declaring variables for writing your code. So what we need to do is, if we're going to be using variables in our VBA coding, we're going to want to make sure that they are declared, which tells the code reader in the background of the Visual Basic Editor, which basically tells here, this area, what that variable is and what it's going to be doing. Declaring variables isn't super necessary, but I say that hesitantly because it's important for good code writing to be declaring your variables. However, if you're the only person that's ever going to look at your code and you're very confident about what you're doing, then you don't have to do it. I am in the bad habit of not declaring variables in a lot of my codes. But I'm going to show you how to do it anyway, so that if you are going to be writing code for other people, then you're going to want to be doing this, and you're going to want to be doing it all the right way. And so I'm going to show you the right way to do it, even though I don't always follow my own advice. So basically, I'm in the VB editor. I'm under module 1, so I'm going to create a new macro. So I'll just call it macro, whatever. And so if I'm going to be using a variable, let's say vary is my variable, and so I can say vary equals 1. So that's a variable, and it's equal to 1. That doesn't really mean anything by itself. It didn't do anything, but I have the locals window up so we can see what happens. So I'm going to hit stop right there, and then I'm going to run it. So vary is a value of 1. See, we just created the variable vary. It's 1, and its type is a variant, which means basically it means not sure what it is because we didn't declare it as anything, but it's right now acting as an integer. So variant means it could change to something else. If I, instead of said 1, if I said true, right? If variable was true, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to rerun it, variant Boolean, so it could be anything, and it right now is acting as a Boolean, and Boolean means true or false statement. So if I didn't want it to be a variant, which means it could change, I want to say it doesn't change, and we're going to dim, which means declare in memory vary. We're going to declare vary as our variable. We're going to declare a variable as a Boolean, and it's going to reset the project, so I say okay. So now we said it is a Boolean, which means it's a true-false statement, and in this case we're assigning it the value of true. We hit run, and then it stops here, and it says it's true. It's no longer a variant, it's just a Boolean. If I said it's not a Boolean, maybe I said it's an integer, yes, it's going to reset. I said it's an integer, and then I ran it. It's an integer, but we gave it the value of true, which isn't a number, and so it kind of makes this weird -1, which doesn't make any sense. But if I, instead of saying true, I said 56, right, because that's an integer. An integer is a whole number. It can't be a decimal. Integers don't have decimals. It's just a whole number. It's all the counting numbers, like the natural numbers. So I run that. We got 56 is an integer. It's vary. That's exactly what it is. And it's housed under module 1, which is where I am. So I could change that. What if I tried to make it 56.5? Then what's going to happen? Well, because integer doesn't have decimals, 56.5 doesn't make any sense, so it gets lopped off, and we just have it's 56. Because integer isn't going to look past the decimal. It's going to say, okay, I'm done here, without I got to the 0.5. So it just assigned vary to be 56 even. If I wanted to keep those decimals, then I can call it double. Yes, it's going to reset the project every time when I'm on stop and I change something important, like the variable, the declaration of the variable, then it's going to have to reset the whole project. So I change that to double, and now I run it, and it keeps the 56.5 because double allows for decimals. So if I add more decimals to it, I can run it again. 56 point and then a bunch of decimals. So it allows to keep all of those by running as a double. So the ones that we looked at just now were integer, double, Boolean, and then another one that we need to look at is called string. Now string is a series of characters, and I say it that way on purpose because it's not necessarily letters. It can be letters or numbers or symbols like like all of those ones, the and star and the caret and all that. They can be anything. A string is just a series of characters that are attached to each other, and you delineate those characters with parentheses. And so those characters can be any letters, doesn't really matter. And then if I stop and run, so the variable is a string of letters right there. It could also have a number in it, doesn't matter. So it's got it, because of the way a string works, it's not actually trying to do any math or do any reasoning with that. It's just a string of characters. So strings are particularly helpful if you're dealing with URLs for websites. So I can say vary equals Google, and then I can say URL equals www dot and vary and .com. And now if I run, now URL is google.com, right? And so I could use that as a link to go to that that website, Google. If I didn't want vary to be Google, I want it to be Yahoo. I can stop, I can run it again, and now the whole URL is yahoo.com. And so in order to actually use that for something, I can do cells11 equals URL, stop, run the whole macro. We got yahoo.com, and so I could click on that and it'll take me to yahoo.com. If I wanted to change Yahoo to Google, go back and forth, run it. Now that URL is google.com. And so if I was trying to download a bunch of data from the internet, I could use strings in order to manipulate URLs so that I could pull data from different websites. And I could even do .com/ and I could do another string that said like images to go to Google Images. I'm not actually positive if that URL is the URL for Google Images, but if I were to stop and run it, Google Images could be that. They might be images.google.com or something, but you get the point. Is I can change that URL to be something else, just as easily by creating a new variable and naming it some other string. I can create numbers. I can do anything I want. And then the last of the most common ones would be date. And so I can dim vary as date. Yes, going to reset the project. So now I'm going to get rid of all of these. And then I'm going to do vary equals, and then I'll just make up a number here, 40,000. And that's, so the way that Excel handles dates is that they assign every day a number. And so it goes in order. So the number 1 represents January 1st of 1900. The number 40,000 represents July 6th of 2009, right? And so if I change it to 41,000 and reran it, we have April 1st of 2012. 41,001 should be April 2nd of 2012. So we'll run it again, April 2nd of 2012, and it goes in order. And so you can create any kind of numbers, and they have the representation of dates by declaring them as a date and then giving it a number. So those are the main, 5, integer, double. So integer is no decimals, it's a whole number. Double is with decimals, double decimals, that's the way to remember it, is the D's. Boolean is a true-false statement. String is just a set of characters, can be letters and numbers, it can be anything, and dates are dates. So you can dim vary as a date or as any of those things. And you could also declare the variables, multiple variables at once. So I can dim vary as date and URL as string. It's going to reset again, but now I have vary as a date and URL as a string, all declared right there, and I could use that later on if I wanted to. And so that's basically it for how to declare variables. I hope that helps for any projects that you're working on. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, or you can send me an email, and thank you for watching.